Good morning, executive team. My name is Fei Gao, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. Over the past several times, our analytics division has been tasked with overhauling our credit card application approval process. And today, I'm excited to present our new data-driven responsive AI approach to risk management. Over the next 10 to 15 minutes, I will talk through the business problem we faced, the strategic decision behind the model we built, and how we ensure absolute fairness, and finally, how we maintain complete transparency for regulatory complaints. Let's get started. So, to understand our approach, we first have to understand the core business challenge. In modern banking, we are constantly walking a tightrope. On one hand, leadership has given a clear mandate. We need aggressive growth. We need to approve as many legitimate customers as possible to capture market share and drive revenue. On the other hand, we have strict risk mitigation requirements. Approving the wrong applicants exposes this institution to massive financial losses through the defaults. Our goal for this project was to deploy a highly automated, machine learning driven system that perfectly balances these two opposite forces while ensuring we remain 100% compliant with strict banking regulations. So before we could write a single line of code or build any predictive models, we have to audit our historical data. As they say in data science, garbage in, garbage out. We spend significant time analyzing the demographics, income type, education levels, and employment status of our historical applicants to understand exactly what a good versus bad applicant look like historically. So during this data audit, we uncovered our first major hurdle, several severe data imbalance. As you can see in this chart, which directly mirrors our analysis output, roughly 87% of our historical applications were approved and successfully paid their debts. Only 13% represented high-risk individuals or actual defaults. Well, it is great news for our business that most people pay their bills. Mathematically, this is a nightmare for machine learning. Why? Because if we deploy a basic off-the-shelf AI, it will quickly learn that it can achieve 87% accuracy simply by hitting the approve button for every single person. It will look great on a standard accuracy report, but it would completely fail to catch the 13% defaults, costing us millions of dollars. So knowing about this imbalance, we began our initial model exploration. We threw the most advanced black box algorithm at the problem, the random forest, XGBoost, and LightGBM. At first glance, the executive might have loved the results. This complex model boasted general accuracy score of around 88%. However, when we looked under the hood at the metric called recall, which measures the model's ability to catch the actual bad apples, these models failed miserably. They were missing nearly 90% of the accurate high-risk defaults. They were optimizing for overall accuracy, ignoring the severe financial penalty of a false negative. So therefore, I made a major strategic pivot. Rather than deploying the newest, most complex AI, I chose a fundamentally simpler, older algorithm, the logistic regression. Why? Because when properly trained, our logistic regression model demonstrated vastly superior recall. It was capable of catching nearly 3 times as many as high-risk applications as the complex models. Yes, it might flag a few more false positive, means we might manually review a few more safe applicants, but it aggressively protects our bottom line by stopping defaults. So furthermore, logistic regression is highly transparent, which is critical for our legal department. So to get the logistic regression model to work perfectly, we have to fix the 87/13 data imbalance I mentioned earlier. So we used an advanced data science technique called SMOOT, which stands for Synthetic Minority Oversampling Technique. In plain English, Smooth looks at our 13 of bad applicants and synthetically generate new, mathematically similar profiles during the training phase. By pumping up the high-risk training data to 50%, we force the model to sit down and pay deep attention to what a default looks like, preventing it from just memorizing the majority class. Before officially signing off this model, we stress tested its ability using learning curve. What you are looking at here is a plot of how the model performs as we feed in more and more data. The solid blue line is how it performs on data it has seen. The dashed green line is how it performs on unseen test data. So the fact that these two lines coverage and hug each other tightly proves our model is stable and is not overfitting or cheating. However, the fact that the lines flatten out and plateau at the end tells us a very important strategic fact. We have squeezed every ounce of predictive power out of our current data. Adding more of the sample data won't help. We will need entirely new data sources in the future. So now, having established a highly effective and stable predictive model, we had to pause and look at the legal and ethical reality. In the financial sector, an accurate model is entirely useless and heavily penalizing if it inadvertently violates federal fair lending law. We cannot have an AI that discriminates based on demographics. So to evaluate this, we conducted rigorously demographic party testing. We blinded the model to specific genders during the decision making, but tracked the outcomes in our analytics backend. The data generated by our model shows an approval rate of roughly 71.8% for gender category 0 and approval rate of 77.6% for gender category 1. At a glance, there's a slightly discrepancy of about 6%. The question for our legal team is, does this disparity violate the law? To answer that, we turn to the standard used by regulatory bodies, the 4/5 rules. This rule mandates that the approval rate of the lowest demographic must be at least 4/5 or 80% of the highest demographic. If it's fall between 80%, you are legally liable for disparate impact. So by dividing our 71.8 by 77.6, our system achieves a ratio of over 92%. We sit incredibly comfortable above the 80% legal threshold. So this proves mathematically to our stakeholders and the auditors that our automated system remains fair across all demographics. So fairness is only half of the regulatory battle. The other half is explainability. We are operating in the financial sector, not e-commerce. If a customer is denied the credit and called us to ask why, we cannot legally respond with because the computer says so. We must prove some precise, actionable reasons. This is why we integrated the SHAP shape values into our pipeline. So let's look first at the macro level of our global feature import chart powered by the Sharp. This chart answers the question, in general, what does this model care about the most? As you can see from our code output represented here, the model overwhelmingly prioritizes the education type, income type, and employment status. This is excellent news for us. It means the AI hasn't latched onto some weird spurious correlation. It has independently learned to evaluate applicants based on highly logical, highly defensible financial fundamentals. This passes the common sense test for our risk officers. But what about the micro level? What about the specific customer calling the support desk? This is our local explanation tool. It breaks down the exact mathematical journey for a single individual. Looking at this applicant's waterfall chart, we can see exactly how the decision was made. While their specific age brackets push their risk score up slightly, their unique income type and education level overwhelmingly pull their risk score back down, securing their final approval. So we can instantly generate this auditable paper trail for every single application processed by the system. So to summarize, we have built a system that streamlines credit approval decision while remaining fair, transparent, and financially defensive. My strategic recommendations to the executive board are therefore: first, we deploy this logistic regression model to production immediately, letting this superior recall actively block high-risk defaults. And second, we integrate this sharp SHAP and demographic party checks directly into our legal dashboards to automate compliance audits. And the third, finally, looking ahead to next quarter, as our learning curve proved, we have exhausted our current data, and I recommended freezing our current model architecture and shifting our budget towards acquiring alternative data sources, such as utility payments or rental history, to give the AI new information to learn from. And thank you, time, and I will open the floor to any questions. Thank you for your attention.